Welcome to Midway Lumpin Radio.
Thanks, John.
That's
My
a
name is Rachel Buse, and I'm out of Des Moines, Iowa. And I'm here representing an independent art project that I started in 2012, Art Beacon. And that project is how I contacted you. Now is that technically 12 years ago? Um, and that's how I found Public Space One. And I was so excited about what you were doing for artists. And I'm an artist. And so I knew that I belonged to you in your community. Um, and I came and assisted an artist that you brought to town. And
Yeah,
um,
and we knew you belonged right away. And before we get too far into it, I'll say I'm John Engelbrecht, Executive Director of Public Space One, based in Iowa City, Iowa. Public Space One is part of the Midway or MdW project, depending on how you've learned to talk about that project over the past 2.5, 3 years. We've been running with it, and this recording is part of our Atlas Publishing series, and it's a conversation between myself as a representative of PS1 and this project, and Rachel Boozy. I'm sorry,
there it
I was
is.
yeah. And I was gonna say, yeah, maybe we could spell your name for the people listening because I think they should find you and Art Beacon, and your last name is Buse.
That's all right.
Yeah, and not to interrupt with the formalities because I liked where you were going, and I think that our meeting is so important to how I've seen myself as an artist and an arts organizer um, in our little neck of the woods in this geographical political area that we call Iowa in some ways. Um, 12 years ago, we met, and from my telling of the history is that you were part of an exhibition that our program coordinator, Calmia Strong, put together called Somatotopia, which was in our old art space in downtown Iowa City, and it was a touchable. It meant that every art object in it was meant to be handled and interacted with. Art show that happened then, and you were one of numerous artists, and one of the artists that we've just maintained a kind of consistent relationship with since you were part of that show. So, yeah, would you want to talk about the that show and the art piece that you brought to that show?
Yeah. It was a very tactile, experimental, fun show. One of the pieces, you guys like cover the floor with rocks just to like have a different sound and texture under your feet. It was very playful. My friend Tibby Chelsea came and invited people to walk on ink, and their shoe prints were like embedded into the print. Um, I think my friend Tiffany also exhibited. Did she do something with milk?
She
Or
did.
maybe that was a different show.
No, that was that show. We have a bunch of pictures of people drinking a milk product of some sort, out of like very like tiny test tubes, and she had some strange lighting around it, so it was very oh, not like you're thinking of milk, I guess. I don't know what if you think about milk in an art context, if you think about um Clockwork Orange or something. I don't
Yeah.
it was not like that. It was more science lab-esque, but in a strange, unfinished basement gallery.
So that show like began like a decade of being aware of each other and um that evening I spent the night in a giant stretchy band with an artist that came from Brooklyn. Do you remember how to say his name? I was just gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Kalian Ivanov.
Yes.
And I've never seen him since, but every once in a while he'll give me a little social media nod. Um, it's just fascinating, these kind of surprising, playful art experiences can connect you to people. And I think the project that we're going to talk about that we've made to publish with Midwest Atlas is a reflection on some of those relationships that we collected over the years that came through Public Space One, that came through the Art Beacon. Um, and two of the things that we're publishing give a little bit of background about those individual projects, why we pursued them on our own. They take different forms. Mine I made very impersonal, and just kind of, I'm going to pull it up so I can reflect on it. It's called the Art Beacon because I had just moved to Des Moines and there was a weather beacon, and the weather beacon had like a poem that everyone in town knew. Weather beacon red, warmer weather is ahead. Weather beacon blinking white, colder weather is in sight. Um, but they just like decided like it's been there since the 70s and we don't have like the light bulbs anymore or anything. So the same year that that ended, I erected my own um, metaphorical beacon and started to try to collect as many artists as I could because I'm from Nebraska originally, so I didn't know where my people were.
Yeah. Uh, it's been such a great name and kind of guiding post for what has been a much needed um, uh, project in Iowa or entity in Iowa, which is collecting how artists communicate and know about things happening and form some basis of a network. We're in a state in Iowa that has very poor arts funding, worse than a lot of other states, even states around us like Illinois and Minnesota have much better state funding models. And so a lot of what has been important to me in organizing in Iowa are these connections that we've kind of made from the ground up. So um, Art Beacon was such a, you know, for us, statewide important entity to reflect on and something that we've pointed to a lot over the years. And you mentioned Tiffany as part of that Somatotopia show, and Tiffany is one of the artists who produced a little piece of this Midway publishing project for us that we're going to talk about. Um, at the beginning of this show, as we're early in it, how would you like to kind of set up the conversation for what is to come? We've kind of been introducing ourselves, and I think we can continue to do that, but we should also do it with a nod to um, this particular publishing project that is coming out of Iowa and out of our kind of reflections on our shared last decade of organizing in this town
Well,
or in
I
the state, sorry.
in the process of yeah, brainstorming who to tap for their contributions. Um, there is like this sweet spot of like the independent artist run entity organization. Um, and when does that tip over into something bigger? Um, that it becomes a nonprofit. Well, you're a nonprofit. So, like, how did we like decide or shape like who fits into our box of like the others that we are looking for? Like, what constitutes what we're looking for? I feel like that categorization has been like a challenge for Art Beacon. Like, um, am I covering jewelers? They are technically artists, and it's been so hard to cover music. Trey Rice, he submitted a piece for the project. He has a independent music publishing company where he puts recordings out on tapes called Warm Gospel. Um, he actually had his own version of Art Beacon, which was a music performance calendar for a short time. And I thought it was cool that we kind of were starting to kind of build the network of support. I just didn't have like the knowledge or the know-how to connect to musicians and the visual arts just because that was like my interest in my training. But to categorize like who are the others and how far does it go out and when does it become too corporate, when does it become too um, not independent anymore, I'm not really sure like how those shapes are defined. um, but I think it comes about because of needing to build our own resources because they are not um, they are not plentiful. But what I was thinking, while state funding is low, my experience in Iowa has been if you have a vision, um, it's wide open.
Mm.
There's tons of support, tons of excitement, and I'm even learning more now. Like, um, how can that financial support come through if not from the traditional means? Um, I feel like I'm really just starting on that mountain um, as I've figured out some of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Take
No,
it from
no.
there, John.
Yeah. There's there's so many things there. I think going back a moment, I think it's worth noting that you're operating out of Des Moines, which is the capital city, biggest city in Iowa. I'm operating out of Iowa City, which is about an hour and 45 minutes east of Des Moines, a stretch that I drove between 4 and 5 a.m. this morning after 10 hours coming up from Texas. So I was actually reflecting on the state of Iowa, having not spent a majority of my time in Iowa over the past 6 weeks. I've primarily not been here. So yeah, coming home but I think when you know to get back to that kind of original question of um, who fits in our box. I mean, for us, it's a little different because we are such a small community, a small college town. We have a lot going on. It was in some ways easier to grow in this very organic way because there were so few of us who felt like we fit in that box. So in that way, PS1 could be to borrow your terminology, a beacon for really local weirdo artists, and we never, you know, really didn't differentiate from medium. It was kind of like if you're around and you think this is for you, it probably is, because there's not other things around like it, and um, so there was no overarching, 5-year marketing plan for who we are and who's going to be included. It was just like we need to make something happen, and we're doing it, and this kind of goes sort of to my contribution, which I'm still unsure about publishing. But my PDF contribution was sort of about this idea of you don't need permission, you just show up, and kind of how artists can take the reins and create their own space. And of course, in the Chicago area, there's a really rich history of apartment galleries and this sort of attitude towards contemporary work where it's not waiting for the gatekeepers and making your own opportunities. And um, so that's one thing. And then I have a lot to say about the state of Iowa and what you just mentioned about finding, perhaps, even if it's not coming from the state, figuring out how art projects get funded and also how opportunities get made. Um, and one thing I'll say from my late night drive, which has given me, I think, hopefully a really good radio voice today. I'm hoping
It
it's just
sounds really good.
a little gravelly. So I hope so. I hope it sounds better than worse. But when I entered the state of Iowa last night by Lamoni, coming up from Kansas City, I noticed they had changed the signs, and maybe we have a new state motto. But it used to be, well, I don't even know if it's a motto or a marketing campaign from the state, but it used to be Fields of Opportunities, and the whole time I've lived here, which is now 22 years, it was always you'd enter and it would say, "Welcome to Iowa, Fields of Opportunities, Fields of Opportunities," and of course, nod to agriculture and that sort of thing. But I would like to extend that idea to what you were saying, and the mentality of experimenting and trying things out. And we definitely feel that in Iowa City, where we have where it seems like it's a very low bar for being able to take risks and make things happen. And I think that is definitely part of Public Space One's history when it comes to artist-run arts organizing. Um, and uh, and I guess I should say for the record, I guess the new motto is freedom to flourish. That's what it said on the sign, freedom to flourish. So
I think I did hear about that. Dang, that's way worse, right?
we got freedom in the title though now, so I don't know if that in some ways I feel like that even marks a sort of political change that has happened in Iowa in the past um,
Mhm.
25 years. But anyway,
It's
uh,
still aspirational, so
it,
I'll
it,
give it
it
that.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's true. It's maybe action oriented in some way.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like inviting to realize that you can take some action, you can move forward with your vision.
yeah, yeah. I guess at this point I would be remiss not to say, as putting on my executive director hat for PS1, we just this week put out a call. We have our first sort of Andy Warhol. Well, it's not sort of. We have our first regional regranting cycle happening from the Warhol Foundation. Public Space One is a regional regranter now, and we just put out the call for Big Field Fund, which unfortunately, Rachel, I'm sorry that you're outside the 80-mile radius of Iowa City for support for these art projects that happen, and I don't necessarily want to talk about that program right now. Um, but
Super exciting though.
yeah, it's
When I
just a
saw that, I was like, just all the years of like um, building that space to be in a position to be a regranter. It's really incredible. And to
yeah,
really help like um, yeah, funnel those funds where you think maybe might be the most exciting to see. Like I think both of us um, know our communities really well. And that's something that you can't go to college for. You can't, there's no training program. It just takes time and it takes talking to people. And so resources are great, but if they've got nowhere to go or if you don't know who the collaborators are, like um, money can be spent on a lot of different things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be like a meaningful experience. Um, so that's huge that you get to participate in that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think like all and I think this kind of comes back to your conversation about like where are the opportunities for artists in the state of Iowa and how do you find them? My hope is that like I think we do know our community to some extent, but I also think that there's history of a lot of communities that operate invisibly in Iowa and our hope is that we're able to reach those that are less likely to have the uh, visibility on a and I think that's changing a little bit and of course there's a lot of historic, systematic things that are standing in our way of reaching people. But I am hopeful that the communities that we're reaching with this are more expansive and don't need or don't will come to the forefront and that we'll be able to work with them and find them in ways that are um, uh, have been maybe less visible in the past, and I so I think that's always a challenge. So I'm definitely not here to pat ourselves on the back for the communities we know, but to
No, you
really
should. I I'm not going to stand for this. Like this conversation is to mark that you know, we've had vision, we've acted on our vision, and um, we're leaders in our community, and that should be a signal to others that they have a vision. Let's go. We want to collaborate, um, and we will champion um, people with visions in our community. So I just like I think like wanting I want to switch that in myself. I've not always been like no, I am the leader. I am doing it. Um, and even in the last few weeks, I've been like switching that, and it's just wild how um, what comes out of that like directness when you're taking action. Um, lots has flourished in the last few weeks. It's Art Week in Des Moines, June 19th to the 15th. Um, it's been about 6 months of preparation, and it is kind of an open call to the whole community. But the trick is, I always think of Art Week as being a meme, and once you like get the meme, you can do it. You can act fast, and you can do some really fun things. But when you're outside the meme, it's like, what is this or what's happening? And so like we've been doing it for 10 years, and so every year we the meme spreads just a little bit wider, and people know how to um, boogie and shake.
yeah
Um,
yeah
but there, I've had some things of like, it's not me, it's the community, and I've had to switch that to like help it grow. It really needs someone who's like proud and bold and um, is excited. It needs that like confidence. Um, and so, yeah, if if there are artists out there that are like seeing like where things are missing or you want them to be different, that's vision and that's in you. And nobody else knows about it. So you gotta talk about it and you have to invite people in. Um, I've been doing it intuitively, but I'm now like building more of a consciousness around like why that's important. And yeah.
yeah that's great. I'd be also remiss not to say I've talked about Art Week Des Moines with several people this week. Just even though I've been traveling and have hardly been here, we had our arts festival in Iowa City,
Oh yeah.
and if you look at us and say, oh, Big Field Fund, Warhol rebranding. That's great that Iowa City has it. I wish Des Moines had it. We look at you and say, "Oh, Art Week Des Moines. I wish Iowa City had something like that," because that is something special and definitely missing from our hyper local arts ecosystem in Iowa City. Um, Arts Festival
Well,
is
and you guys have the Joy Parade, and I've been inspired by that and did the Big Head Parade. And now, um, tomorrow, June 14th, Brant Bowman out of Oskaloosa, he's been carpooling to Des Moines over the last couple of weeks, building a giant puppet with the Drake community, the Drake neighborhood community here in Des Moines. Um,
not the rapper,
no,
the different Drake. Yes.
Drake University. Um, yeah, we even though we're not in the same place, we feed each other through our network, and um, the internet is super helpful in letting us be like, "What are you guys doing over there?" Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
That,
and I've
that's
even had like meetings with the Joy Parade folks to be like, how do you do a parade? And I got like, you need someone in the lead, you need someone with a megaphone. So then for my parade, I got somebody. I met them a week before my parade, and I was like, "Can you lead the parade?" And they made an alligator hat, and um, yeah, I'm just kind of uh,
awesome. Well, we're in a bit of an
spiraling out in the moment.
no. We're in a bit of an echo chamber with that because I feel like you inspired our Joy Parade with uh I remember you did the slow motion parade at an art week
Oh
um
yeah.
maybe like a long time ago, and that was such a lovely idea. So in danger of like just becoming a feedback loop upon ourselves, we are we are inspiring each other with art parades from opposite sides of I-80 in Iowa.
It's hilarious.
But as we approach the halfway point, I don't know if we even properly introduced the thing that we were here to talk about, which is operations manual. I know we've been tiptoeing around it. We've been talking about some of the artists. Is there I I want to hand it over to you to because I feel like I've tried to describe this project in multiple ways, and every time I describe it, it becomes a little different. Um, but it's here now. We're talking about it. It's going to be published on Midway Atlas. Is there anything you want to say about what I've been calling Operations Manual, this Iowa Artist PDF project that we've been talking about and working with a bunch of artists on for the past couple months?
Yeah, I um, had this idea about PDFs um, from organizing Art Week, from having small pots of money to try to figure out um, fair and equitable ways to invest in different artist visions. And I just started to crave like a small ask with a little bit of a payout or a big payout. Um, and I was just like, if I could just pay all the artists that I know for some specific um, morsel of their practice that they could share in a PDF that could become collectible, like inspired by zine culture, um, and it could spread, it pass around. Um, it's such a democratic format, and it can be a whole book or it can just be one page. So I was just really excited to make these art pieces that can be digitally shared and kept and collected. And this is kind of the first iteration of moving forward on that impulse and that idea.
You're listening to Lumpen Radio. I'm John Engelbrecht with Public Space One, talking with Rachel Boozy. Why can't I get that right? I always want to
Well,
put a
because it sounds offensive, but you just got to think about how I'm a drunk. Rachel Boozy. So boozy.
You're not a drunk.
I haven't
uh,
been for a while.
yeah. And I appreciate that and you saying your name because I sound like I don't know you even though we've known each other for going on our second decade together and in the art culture of Iowa. Um, we're talking about this project that you've alluded to as a sacred PDF project, and I put on the title Operations Manual because we had about three or four different titles which people can read about, along with the stuff that is published with this radio show. Um, you said a little bit of payout for a morsel of an artist's truth. And I like said a bunch of things that you said and put them into a sentence that kind of took it out of your actual quote. But tell me more about I really appreciate that you said the beginning because I too hopefully feel like this is just the beginning of collecting these this type of knowledge, this type of PDF knowledge that exists. Sort of one way we've talked about is not Googleable, not able to find in a search engine on the internet. Which alludes to sort of the better part of or what is important about our work for the past 12 years is that information that we hold that you can't find a blueprint for on the internet, I think.
Well, I think that's like what's so sweet about being an artist. Uh, you spend your time um, experimenting, examining, questioning, pushing edges, and um, the slow parade. When I did that, I just changed how fast I would move in space in public. And it created such a ruckus. So weird. I haven't been like a very political artist or, you know, really like digging into some major themes, but just even slowing down in public is enough to like interrupt other people's programming. Um, so when we approach these other artists, I was just very curious, like, what have you figured out? Or what are you doing to like, or what are you experiencing? Or what are you figuring out? Um, and they all made their PDFs in their own language. It's quite a range of response. Some are very abstract, some are narrative. And I think you can really get to know their personality, what they're all about through the way that they approached the operations manual. We kept it pretty wide open, um, just so that you could get a sense of their ethos and their essence. So there might not be like a step one, paint with a brush. Step two, look at it. Um, I think some of them are more esoteric um, and abstract, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love slowness as a political act, for lack of a better way to put it, in this time that we live in. And yeah, and I was the perhaps in the future there will be a little PDF about the slow motion parade because I'm looking actually at my desk here. I have a little zine I made about slowness where I just took quotes about how that can disrupt a culture that is um, where we're all made to move so fast and so I love that you said that. Yeah, would you like to talk about a few of the artists and their contributions to
Well,
Operations Manual?
one that I really love. Some of my artists, I actually was a little bit constricting of what I asked of them. And one was Larissa. And Larissa is a fantastic, prolific artist in town. Um, but I didn't ask them about their own private practice. I asked them about their independent, um, spontaneous gallery that they started in the bathroom of where they have a studio in the Fitch building in Des Moines, Iowa. And let's see, it's called the Golden Hind Gallery. And it's narrative. You have to slow down enough to read it, but just I think it's just a perfect example of like following a vision and how things fall into place. And you don't have to have the whole thing figured out because as you're sharing what you want to do, people get excited and they're like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. Or they had someone drive up from out of state to stay in her house, some like a stranger, like somebody that they didn't know before. I don't know how they got connected to them, but they came and stayed, and now they're friends, and they continue to come back to town because of the Golden Hind bathroom gallery, and it has traveled to other bathrooms. And um, the then director at the Des Moines Arts Center wrote for the first show in the Golden Hind bath. So it has um, some institutional support all of a sudden. And that definitely wasn't like the intent of this space. Um, but just because of the open invitation and sharing the idea, it kind of spiraled outward. And I think I've experienced that spiraling outward almost every time you start like bringing people into an idea. It just it's hard to keep it in control, and um, it's fun. It's a fun way to connect to new people and have an adventure.
Yeah, yeah. Um, in there's another PDF from one of the artists that I invited, Narciso, who is an artist who is from Mexico but has lived in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for a long time with his family. His parents um, live there, and I've known him for the better part of 10 years as well. And he has been he primarily as an artist works with that little plasticine clay. I never know what to call it because
Sculpty.
it's like sculpty, yeah, and which is an interesting, I think often that material gets pigeonholed as like for kiddos, like as a Play-Doh almost quality to it, but he works very delicately and makes things that are intricately detailed sculptures that draws on Mesoamerican culture and mythology. Um, and I've known of this work, but it wasn't until a year or maybe a couple of years ago, within the last 2 years, I realized that he is just as much a researcher about this, like a self-guided researcher. He and has published or has written and probably will publish a fairly extensive history of the mythology around some of the stories that he's bringing into the world. So his piece was very much narrative, slowing down, and really looking at his work and these traditions from his kind of ancestral culture, uh, which he is, not he feels a little alien to because he grew up in Iowa and has kind of returned to looking at this heritage, not from a lived experience, but from interest in the aesthetics of it and the spirituality of it. So I really was happy to see some of his research pictures and his narrative take on this subject that's not only like very important to him, but is just a driver for how he sees himself in the universe, and you know something he's worked on for a very long time, and in a way that's very deep, and he's included some of his artwork in this PDF, so you can see what I mean when I the listener, if you are hearing this and you go to the website, you'll find links to these PDFs so you can see pictures of his work, and you can see what I mean by very detailed
Oh wow,
sculpt,
yeah.
sculpted, which of course, like all PDFs, it's just a hint of the real thing, and I encourage you to see that he has had some of these displayed at like the Dubuque Museum, at some of his work recently. So his work is around and about, but yeah, so that another example of kind of like a information that is really I think at some point he'll publish a much larger volume on his research and his work around these mythologies. But it's a little taste of that you probably can't find in a search engine at this particular moment. Um,
Thanks for introducing that. Like, I just opened up their PDF and I had opened it up a couple times, but I just like never slowed down to take it all in. And it's so helpful to have like a little bit of narration. Like, this is about what you're going into. And I'm really excited to spend more time with it. And the clay pieces are really beautiful.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Wow.
a couple of there were two other PDFs in there from artists I invited. Rich Dana did what he took one of my prompts, called it a sacred PDF, which is you'd print it out and then cut it out, and then you can fold it into a QR code. And I'll just leave it at that. But Rich Dana is I was really happy to include him because he has a history of publishing in Iowa. He ran magazine, and in some ways still does run, although it's not as regular as it was in the past, called Obsolete, which was sort of a sci-fi anarcho publication that took multiple forms, and that he ran and printed out of his farmhouse that was outside of Brooklyn, Iowa, which is in between us
The
along.
better Brooklyn. Oh wait, no, I won't say that.
No, I can say it is probably the way lesser known Brooklyn,
There we
very
go.
much smaller Brooklyn, um, more agricultural Brooklyn, I will say. Um, so he's included here, and then you also talked about the music culture and this submission that you had from that is it John? What was his
Trey
name?
Reese.
Sorry, why did I think his name was John? I guess I'm just so
Well,
self.
John is a yeah. Well, John Pearson also added one
Ah,
that I am so excited about what he put together. He's like my bud. I started Art Beacon with him, and we like in the beginning were trying to write about art shows. We were interested in um, critique or reflecting on what people were doing. Um,
yeah,
and he's just someone, which I'm sure you have many relationships like this, where you see the incremental development of their work over time. And every once in a while I try to like express like what that experience is to watch someone's work evolved. And it's like one of my favorite things about being connected to artists, because you know having conversations is is amazing, but also like watching someone like develop their drawing style or their use of color over a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, ungoogleable. Let's just say.
Yeah. In that, I think there's something in that kind of nods to when we did this editorial project 2 years ago for Midway. I wrote a little piece about being here and about staying here, and there's something about living with artists over a long period of time that definitely has something to do with how we both experience the art spheres that we're involved in, as this kind of embodied history and knowledge, um, and there are those people that we've gotten to know because they've stayed here, and I think that's definitely an interesting thing for Iowa, because we are very far from, quote unquote, traditional centers of cultural production here. And so yeah, I appreciate that. I'll mention one thing, and then I'm going to ask you a question, and that is the last PDF that I wanted to just nod to, is the one from Lex Leto. Um, it's called All Means and No End, and this was very much a kind of a scribbled manifesto from someone who you know, I kind of feel like I should include, there should be an embedded audio file or something like that, because Lex is an amazing improvisational experimental musician, originally from Georgia, who's been in Iowa City, going to school, and then finished with school, and kind of has embedded themselves in the local weirdo music community here. And um, and I've been in spaces where Lex has stepped up to a microphone with nothing but a toy keyboard, a loop pedal, and her voice, and just made the most incredible, just rocked out. And so I was so excited to include Lex in this, and I hope, if anything, that this kind of manifesto that they put here in our publication series is just impetus to find them and their work, and see them when they're nearby, wherever they may be, touring with their music, because I've seen them over the past 5 years just do incredible improvisational musical stylings in front of people. But um, I know
It's
we
cool. It's cool to have a visual for like as you were kind of describing what they are all about, and looking at their PDF, like there is a connection to that energy that they captured in the PDF. So that's very cool.
yeah. Last year they did they pitched this show to us at PS1 called Really Bad Art Show, and I think that was and they just had these artists, they just said, make the worst art possible, and we're going to have this bad art show. And it kind of got to that Thomas Hirschhorn idea of like, energy yes, quality no. That is just like, put your energy forward, and they definitely brought it. And they ended up performing at the opening in a shirt that they had made with their co-collaborator for it. That it was like a two-person shirt, and they were trying to play accordion together while wearing this shirt that they both were stuck in, and it was
Wow.
it was amazing. But I wanted to give just a little bit of time, as we're nearing the wrap up of this program, to kind of go back to what you were first talking about, in like you know talking about like the environment in Iowa, and you were talking about you wanting to talk about collaboration and leadership and different levels of control in collaborative projects. And not to take a sharp 90-degree turn here, but I wondered if you wanted to spend a little time kind of bringing me up to date on these things that are the forefront of your mind for the past couple of weeks as you talk about artistic collaboration and projects.
Well, one epiphany that I've had, um, you know, wanting to make sure that there's like space for everyone, um, when you like take control of your idea or move forward on a vision, one thing I learned is that it doesn't, well, oh, I'm actually adding to what I learned, but I'll say both. Just in this conversation, you don't take anything away from anyone
Hmm.
being a leader. It actually makes space for other people to take up space because you get to put that energy out there, that can be welcoming or encouraging. Um, but also, I've learned this is where the epiphany came from. Um, in collaboration, surrendering to someone else's vision. Nothing. I just gain. It's actually just like, um, it's almost like drugs to surrender to someone else's vision. Oh, I have a show that's opening this weekend. It's called Can of Hands, and it's a group of artists that I've been drawing with every week since November. You have been in our little secret chat, um, and you're welcome to join at any time. But what has come out of that process, um, it's trained my nervous system with drawing. Like, I mean, I've drawn for years, but just the weekly practice of it, if I'm overwhelmed and I just start moving the writing device on the page, I can just feel all my muscles relax. It's incredible. And then specifically getting together with the people I've been drawing with, there's such a trust and a bond. And so then we had a show a couple of weeks ago called The Buffalo Show, and I projected this outline drawing of a buffalo that we had been drawing together over the past few weeks. And we got together in someone's studio and we had paint, and an hour and a half we painted 5 giant buffalo heads. Um, and that collaboration starts to kind of reveal where our boundaries are. When is it done? Oh no, I liked that, and you just painted over it. And surrendering to all of what the next person's idea is, and to allow it to come through instead of being like no. Ah. Um, and when is that appropriate actually to just to make a boundary? And somebody spilled some pink paint, and I said, stop, like, don't wipe it up, like, let it dry. It's perfect. So sometimes it did make sense to step in and control it. Um, and it's just been like this incredible dynamic. And then there's actually been some drama of like, oh, somebody can't see the vision or somebody doesn't trust the vision. So then like what communication needs to happen to like make that bridge? But what you just said, like quality, what was it?
Quality,
Quality
energy,
versus
yeah.
energy.
Quality, no.
Um, it's been energy, yes. And as we were hanging the buffalo on the wall, somebody was like, "This is a lot." It was a lot of chaos. It was a lot of color. All I work in the same building where the coffee shop was, where we had the show. Everyone said, "I love this show. I can feel this show." Like it resonated, and
Yeah.
I it didn't come from me. It came from this practice, this energy that we tapped into, and I didn't question it, and it felt so good. And I felt like I had gold in my hands. Like we're going to do this again. We know how to do this now. And it's just our first iteration.
Yeah.
Um, my headphones are dying. Um, Hopefully that doesn't upset the
Uh,
audio. But
you're, yeah, you sound fine. And actually, this is a really nice way to tie up our conversation because, I've alluded to being out of town and I was in China for a month teaching, and I was just looking to give my second day. I was like, I need a lot more slides to show these students. I just want to kind of blow their minds with some stuff, and I shared images from that secret chat group with my Chinese students of
yeah,
the picture. I know it's secret. It's Don't worry, it's buried behind the Great Firewall of China. Uh, it'll never come back to you. And but that instant was like kind of the best knowledge I could export to another country, especially China, and these Chinese art students, because they are very much the best thing I did was get them to draw on each other's work, to have that level of collaboration, and they're so resistant to it because they're like, what if this person does something I don't like on here? What, like, and so I showed your work to these students, and so I think I showed a couple of those buffalo images, and that and I just really I appreciate that, and there's something about that that's special, that I think maybe because we've been working in this collaborative environment for a long time, and we kind of get that from uh, for better or worse, growing up in the U.S. MFA art critique, collaboration, Iowa method of workshopping, blah blah blah, approach to art making. We kind of get it, but it's a pretty special thing to be able to do that. And I love what you're talking about, having this really simple thing, which is making a shared image together, and how that starts to border on all these things about collaboration, about leadership, about conversation, levels of control. All these things come out in that simple collaboration. Um,
And it was almost like not even about the Buffalo things. Like that was the surface that caught the energy, and we're moving on. Like we're moving on. I mean, they exist if anybody wants to have them, but they served as a way to cook and move forward. And now they're documents. So even if they're distasteful or terrible, like it captured what we're doing together. And that's why it was super valuable to me. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a great way to end. I mean, I think that we can hope that for our PDF project. We can hope that for
Yeah.
this Midway Atlas project, that we're capturing some cross section of things that are happening within the various art spheres and art communities that are in Iowa and in the Midwest. Thanks
Thanks,
for
John.
Yeah, thanks for chatting, Rachel, and thanks for being here. Thanks for putting up with my gravelly voice, and thanks to all the listeners for listening in. And thanks again to PMI and Lumpen Radio for hosting us here with this Midway Atlas project.